Hello guys, thought I'd jump on here real quick and give a few tips that will help you, hopefully. Um, I remember back when I was learning how to paint and I needed to cover a black background and I was using yellow. Oh my goodness, you don't know how many coats of yellow. And I kept wondering, how do these people do this? Finally figured it out. Okay, so a little quick tip here. If you're working on a dark background and you do want to put yellow on here, um, or orange, yellow, orange, red, they're all translucent colors. So they're not going to cover the black very well at all. I don't care how many coats you put on there. So some of you probably already know this, but for the ones that do not, you mix white with what you want to put on your black. So in other words, I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and I'm going to mix a little bit of white with it. And it's going to go pale yellow. Now, that's not the yellow that I want to use, but it's going to have to be my first few coats on top of the black. So in other words, anything that has white in it will cover a dark surface. It'll cover the blue, obviously it'll cover the red. Okay, so all I would do is, where's one of my small brushes? Grab me up some of that light yellow. And let's say I'm doing a heart. And so the first probably 3 coats of this light yellow is what you're going to need to cover that black background. Maybe just 2, depends on how much white you use. Okay, so we'll let that dry. I'll go with the second coat, which that may be all I need. Then, if I want my richer yellow color, I want the yellow color just as it's coming out of the bottle, then my third coat would be the straight yellow. And you've got great coverage there. Same thing with red. Red does not cover black well at all. It's too translucent. So I better not do that. Use your stir brush, Beth. Okay, so I will take the red and make a little bit of pink. And so it's the same principle. You'll do a couple of coats of pink, and then your last coat will be the straight red. And you got great coverage. Now there's water on there. So that's how you cover a dark background. And the principle can be used in every area. For instance, that yellow is almost dry there. So let's say I want to put orange on top of the blue. And there's water in my brush. And of course it won't cover. So you make peach. Mix a little bit of white. Into that orange and make a peach color. Let that dry. Do a couple of more coats, and then you can use your regular orange on top of that. So that's how that works. Let's show you on the yellow. All right, I'm doing a second coat on the yellow with the yellow and white mix. I probably would end up doing a third one so I can have the strong yellow color that I want. But I think you get the picture now. So when you're covering a dark background with a translucent color, mix white in that translucent color and do 2, 3, maybe even 4 coats. Your last coat on top of that item that you're painting would be the straight color, the yellow, you know, straight yellow, straight red, whatever, with no white in it. Or you can start blending at that point. So let's say I was trying to do an apple on top of this black background. Well, then I would paint the apple pink, probably 2 to 3 coats, and then I'd start from that point work on that base with the reds and the oranges and the light yellows that show up on an apple. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Any other little tidbits that I can give you right now, I think that would come in handy and that will help. And that is, when you're working up a painting, I have found that I used to use the color wheel and, you know, trying to figure out on the color wheel what paint colors complement other paint colors. And after a time, I found what really works for me is to, let's say for instance, you're making painting a cluster of grapes on a canvas or a board. So the purple you decide to use for that cluster of grapes, if it's a dark purple, like for instance this one, this is from Deco Art Traditions, best paint in the world as far as I'm concerned. Well, next to Ceramicoat, another excellent paint. I've been using these for many years, and they're kind of grody right now because when the grandkids come over to paint, they get as much paint on themselves as I do. Anyway, if you're using a dark purple, which this is, then I would let that dark purple show up in something else that's in your painting. For instance, the leaves. When you, if you watched my last video of painting some leaves, I did a dark color of green, a light color of green, and then I did the regular green. Well, the dark color of green, to make dark green, I would use this purple. And so, in other words, the colors begin to complement each other. If you were doing a blue sky and you needed a purple color in your painting after the blue sky, then you could use that blue that you used in your sky and then mix it with some red to make your purple. And so that purple would complement that blue sky. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the way I work it. Now your black and your brown and your white pretty much goes well with everything. But if I was working on something, let's say that had a blue sky, and I was working on a painting that had gray in it, well then I would definitely mix up a gray color using black and white, but I'd be sure that blue that was in that sky is in that gray as well. So again, all these colors begin to complement each other when you create a beautiful picture. Okay, I think that, finally, that yellow is dry right here. Now I'm going in with the plain yellow. This is what originally I started with, was this plain yellow color. I'm going over the heart And you can see you've got great coverage. I didn't go to the edge, but that doesn't matter. That's how you cover a dark background. It's the same thing with the peach. I would go over the peach 2 or 3 times and then go over it with my straight orange. Okay, that's a few tips for the day. I hope it helps you. Y'all have a very nice day.